On the heels of Vice President Kamala Harris's first trip to the border since being tapped to lead the administration's response to surge in migrants, Texas Governor Greg Abbott will host former President Donald Trump at the southern border Wednesday. And that is where we are being joined by Fox's Griff Jenkins right now. Griff, I understand that, former President Donald Trump's visit is expected as apprehensions continue to rise there. What can you tell us?
Hey, Regina, we're here where it is very active. This is ground zero for President Biden's border crisis. A helicopter just passed over in this area, and behind me you can see the Border Patrol is set. Now, I want to get to this sector and what the president and governor will see, but first, this is an active scene, Regina, because there are so many migrants we see surrendering, wanting to be captured. But if you look over here, this field right here, we're about a mile from the river. The border, of course, is the river, the Rio Grande River. That way, this morning, about 45 minutes ago, 7 Mexican nationals crossed and did not want to be captured. Now, they ran into this field, and Border Patrol caught 5 of them. We were coming around this corner, and they ran, 5 of the 7 Mexican nationals ran out of the bushes at our car. I was filming it, and then Border Patrol came around and got them. They're still actively looking for 2 more that are in the brush in there. And that's just a testament to the ones that want to get away. The ones that we have seen, the surrendering migrant surge in this area alone in the last 24 hours, just in the Rio Grande Valley, 2,107 have surrendered. They count those as apprehensions. They're mostly from that northern triangle, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and there were some Ecuadorians. Now, Vice President Harris, of course, going down last month to Guatemala to work on the root causes of why the migration surge is so heavy, and this is certainly the area. She did not come here. She went to El Paso, but this RGV area is the area where it's heaviest. I don't think we can actually see this, Regina. I'm going to point Dartis, my cameraman, even though it's a long ways away, but you can see that's the Air and Marine Operations wing of the CBP, Border Patrol, and they're looking for these migrants that have dug in so heavily. As you can see, the helicopter working its way back here. A note about who is being apprehended. While we know so many are fleeing the poverty and violence in their countries, some are criminal migrants. In the last 4 days in the RGV, they have had 7 criminal migrants. 4 were known gang members, 2 were sex offenders, and 1 was a gentleman convicted of negligent homicide, all a part of what's happening here. Now, when we landed here yesterday, we drove out here to La Jolla. It's just west of McAllen, and we encountered 3 large groups totaling more than 300 buses coming and going, transporting them, taking them to processing centers. That is a lot of what the governor is bringing former President Trump here to see, the overwhelming numbers. You have not just Border Patrol and CBP, but the local police departments and the Texas Department of Public Safety having to all combine their resources, all hands on deck, to deal with these numbers. And these numbers, we should point out for our viewers who may remember, have been going on really since February. You had the March numbers, the April numbers, the May numbers, all 170,000 or more. It is all a part of the challenge that these guys have in this area as we continue to wait and watch and see exactly what happens with the 2 that are evading capture right now. Regina?
Yeah, Griff, and Republicans, former President Donald Trump, many people have taken aim at the Biden administration for allowing this situation at the border to grow. So what do you necessarily expect former President Donald Trump to do and say tomorrow? I do know that I think he's expected to tour some facilities and speak with border agents. Is that correct?
That's correct. And there is also, Regina, a number of members of Congress will be here, to include Texas Congressman Michael Cloud. There will be workshops. And so the president is going to come, and he's come to this sector before when he was president. He's going to come, see things firsthand, see the hot spots, but also go and meet with the CODEL and try and work on solutions, because the governor of Texas has made it very clear he doesn't believe the administration is doing enough to stop this crisis. That's why he's vowed to build his own wall. That's why he has allocated $1 billion of Texas taxpayer funding to try and help get this under control. Now, your question about the migrants and the message from the administration is very important, because despite the administration, who repeatedly does publicly say, don't come, telling the migrants in particularly those northern triangle countries, this is not the time to come. But if you talk to them, as we did yesterday, as I have been doing for the last several months on multiple border trips, they all tell you that they believe now is the time to come, because they see the lack of enforcement of Border Patrol here, and they have relatives here. We hear the push factor, the poverty and violence pushing the migrants on the dangerous trek north, but the pull factor is just as big. The pull factor is that they see those that went before them get here on Facebook, through text messaging. They're communicating with those that got across, were processed, released, and are with family members here on the U.S. side. And agents will tell you, as will the migrants, that's the big reason. So how do you get it under control? What is former President Trump going to do? We'll have to wait and find out. I think one announcement that I can pretty much say is safe to say, we can expect Governor Abbott to make some public statements about his efforts to start constructing some border fence or wall in certain areas, because it isn't just a massive long wall that they want. They want specific targeted fencing that moves migrants to certain areas when they cross, to help the agents on the ground, who are overnumbered, to have a certain area where they'll have the best shot of apprehending them, rather than more open areas for the migrants to run through.
Yeah, Griff, I'm glad you said what you just said, because it's really important points to note that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is obviously very supportive of the wall. He's made several declarations of emergency at the border. So do you almost feel like him bringing former President Donald Trump to the border with him, alongside of him, is almost him pulling out all the stops to make some sort of a point?
Well, listen, for sure, there are politics in this, and members of Congress that I've interviewed have said that one of the first things that needs to happen, really, to get some sort of bipartisan solution, whether be it immigration reform or some sort of new border enforcement protocols, policies, what they want to do is get the politics out of it, because, both sides are dug in. But I think, the fact that the governor is bringing the former president down here is intended to put pressure on this administration to try and raise more awareness that this is indeed a crisis. Listen, whether it was me 3 weeks ago standing in the Rio Grande River in Del Rio, which is about 5 hours west of me, or here in the Rio Grande Valley, which is ground zero, the authorities, the residents, everyone who lives here and sees it firsthand says this is a crisis. It should be issue number one, and the administration needs to be dealing with it. This gives the governor an opportunity perhaps to have a louder megaphone by bringing former President Trump here, because all the news networks are going to cover it and pay some attention to it.
All right, Griff, yeah, and it's important to mention, we were just showing some video next to you, lots of children, lots of families making their way across the border. So definitely a situation that we're keeping track of. Thank you so much for joining us here on News Now from Fox with this information. You stay safe out there.
Thank you, Regina.
All right, everybody. Huge thank you to Griff Jenkins out there in Texas at the U.S. Mexico border. Again, we've got former President Donald Trump heading that way tomorrow, and you can bet that we will have full live coverage here on News Now from Fox, everybody.